Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you may be joining us today, and welcome to day 2 and our 4th session of Artlogic Connect 2024. My name is John Duff, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Artlogic, and we're absolutely thrilled that you've been able to join us. Before I kick us off, I'm just going to hand over the mic to our President and Chief Commercial Officer, Joe Elliott, for some welcoming remarks.
Thanks so much, John. Well, welcome, first of all, and thank you everyone for joining day 2 of our first ever art business conference, Artlogic Connect 2024. We've all been truly bowled over by the response to Artlogic Connect, with over 3,000 people registering. So from all of us here at Artlogic, we really just wanted to say a big thank you for coming and for joining the conversations this week. We'd really encourage you to get involved, do ask questions, do also use the Q&A in the Zoom meeting and pop those questions in so John can follow up and put them to the panel later. And equally, feel free to follow up with us after the event. We're here to help any way we possibly can. I'm personally really excited for today's topic, a deep dive into how collectors want to engage with dealers. The collector-dealer relationship is something that we literally work on day in and day out at Artlogic, building products specifically tailored to help foster a deeper connection between dealers and collectors. So it's absolutely crucial for us to hear how those relationships are evolving in today's art market. And finally, before we get going, just want to say a big thank you to all of our moderators and panelists, both today, yesterday, and tomorrow throughout Artlogic Connect, without whom none of this would be possible. I've got no doubt that this discussion will be yet another illuminating and fascinating one. So with that, let's get to it. I'm going to pass back over to John so we can kickstart this panel.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Joe. As Joe mentioned, we've had over 3,000 registrations from 70 countries, and it was important to us at Artlogic to make sure that we could create a space where the art world could come together to give a platform to a lot of art world voices, experts, because as we know, the art world thrives on connection, innovation, and shared knowledge. And by coming together, we believe that we can help tackle some of the challenges, spark new ideas, and shape a future where creativity and business flourish hand in hand, which is why we're very excited by today's panel. This session is titled Catch Me If You Can, How Today's Collectors Navigate an Art World in Their Own Terms, where our panel is going to share insights on what attracts collectors to an artist or a gallery, and how galleries can meet collectors where they are without maybe chasing them away. This session, I've got a few housekeeping. So this session is going to have a panel discussion that's about 45 minutes. And then we're going to have a Q&A. So if you do have any questions that pop into your head during this time, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A box. Please note that the Q&A box section is public, so people will be able to see your questions. So please make sure that it's appropriate for all audiences. If we do have time, we'll try and get through most of them, but we've been running a little bit over because in some of the sessions we've been getting 30-40 questions, which is great. We love the engagement. We will try and follow up afterwards if it's possible to, but we're not going to get to every question, unfortunately, but we're trying to group them together. If you do need to step away, don't worry. It's being recorded. It'll be available on demand, and we'll email that to you next week after the conference is finished. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Megan Leckie, who will guide us through this exciting discussion. Megan has 18 years of experience in the art and culture sector, focusing on connecting galleries and institutions with collectors and patrons worldwide. She previously served as the regional head of VIP Relations Asia at Art Basel and global director of VIP Relations at Frieze Fair. Please join me in welcoming Megan to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Don, for your kind introduction. And a big thank you to Natasha Whiffen-Aljo for her master coordinating skills for this conference. I'm delighted to be here with such a powerful lineup of key women in the art world. We will take a deep dive into learning how these esteemed collectors engage with galleries and artists on their own terms. We will share insights on what attracts these particular collectors to an artist or gallery, how they build relationships, and what interactions or engagements have made an impact on their collecting behaviour and endeavours. Our collectors all have different outlooks and focus points, but there are many similarities in terms of their values and activity. Their dedication to the arts is deep and laudable. The importance of building relationships is key, and the support they all provide is essential. from commissioning artworks to loaning works to institutions, as well as discovering new artists and galleries and championing specific regions. Now, to introduce the panel, I've tried to keep this short. There's a long list of all of their achievements and board level roles. First of all, we have Basma Al Sulaiman. Basma is a leading figure from the Middle East. In 2011, Basma founded Basmoka, the world's first virtual museum showcasing her collection through advanced visual technology. As a founding member of the Saudi Art Council, Basma has initiated projects such as the Jeddah Sculpture Park and was the first Saudi woman recognized for her contributions to the arts in 2014. Her collection spans global and Middle Eastern contemporary art, encouraging Saudi artists to foster cultural connections. I met Basma actually very early on in my career when working in China. Catherine Petitgas is recognized for her contributions as a collector, patron, and art historian, with a particular focus on modern and contemporary art, mostly from Latin America. She's currently chair of the International Residencies Programme at Gasworks, the Triangle Arts Trust in London. I know you're just about to step down after a decade of moving mountains, so it'll be interesting to see where you go next. She's also a trustee of the Liverpool Biennale and founding member of varying Latin American acquisition committees in London, New York, and Paris, including Tate and other institutions. Catherine has edited several books on the art scene of the region. She heads an artist-led project for emerging artists in Merida, Yucatan, and Mexico. Catherine is a key figure in the UK art scene as well as around the world. I have to say, if you go to Mexico or South America, you definitely need her tips. I know Catherine from being a global patron for Art Basel and a big supporter of Frieze. I also had the honor of spending time with her in Mexico 2 years ago, which was fabulous. Miyoung Lee is a board member of the Whitney Museum of American Art, a member of the North American Acquisition Committee at the Tate Americas Foundation, as well as the Acquisition Committee for the Studio Museum in Harlem. Miyoung has recently supported Lee Bull's commission at the Met, which just opened in September. Miyoung kindly opened her sensational home in New York last year to a select number of collectors during Frieze New York, still a lasting memory of mine. We have an eager audience who can't wait to hear about the types of interactions that have been key in all of your collecting journeys. We're going to jump straight into the questions, as I'm conscious of the need to gain as much advice from you all as we can. So first, I want to talk about your personal approach. Obviously, collecting is often a deeply personal journey shaped by each collector's unique background, values, and artistic interests. Today, we'll start by exploring what sparked each of your journeys in collecting and how your approach has evolved over time. So Basma, as a pioneer in the Saudi art scene, how has your personal connection to Saudi culture influenced your collecting journey, especially through initiatives like Basmoka and your involvement in local cultural projects?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to share my experience with all of you. My approach to collecting differs, Meg, from other people, because I came from Saudi Arabia, and when I started collecting back in the 90s, resources were very limited and exposure was almost none. So for me, it was a personal journey, a personal effort, where I had the passion of art in one hand and the eagerness to learn and explore. So, but the main goal was always for me is to preserve my heritage and embrace the future. That was very important for me, is to preserve my heritage. and mix the old and the contemporary, and through a very interesting like storytelling or a narrative that is specific to my region. So I had different hats on. I had many different hats on. I had one hat which was like I was a patron supporting the art and the artist and the scene, with the limited scene. And then I had another hat which was a collector, you know, where I was fulfilling my passion and my love for art. That was another one. I had another hat which was I was an advocate for my culture, which was you know, a very important and not a lot of knowledge about it. Another one was, which was really important, is the misconception about the stereotype, you know, that is being known about that part of the world. So I had really different hats in the same time, but always was driven by the love of art and the love and the passion for art and the passion to support a scene that was really just starting, you know, and at early on, I didn't have the enough knowledge or the education, but later on, I took a diploma in fine art, in modern and contemporary art, that helped me a lot to support the scene from a different angle. Then after a while, I amassed a collection that I thought it was time to share it, because my main interest was to support the local scene. So I created the Basma Virtual Museum, which was a platform that engaged conversation between local artists and international artists in a technology setting where there was no border and it was available to all. So basically the process of the collecting and the approaching the art, to me, was more like it was a path to educate others and educate myself, which included the artist and the gallerist.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Quite the trailblazer, Basma. Yeah, that's fantastic. Really would love to know more about that story, and we'll go into a bit more detail. Catherine, with your commitment to Latin American art, both being personal and, you know, academic, again, you've done a lot about education and building that knowledge. How do you approach discovering new artists? Does it happen more through word of mouth or through online search or platforms? It'd be interesting to see how what platforms you might use to discover.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Megan, for having me, and thank you to Artlogic as well. It's very exciting to be part of this panel of power girls, you included, Megan, and see what drinking mezcal together led us to in Mexico. So yes,
I did wonder if you were going to mention that.
Yes. Well, you know, I think that somehow I've ended up being a sort of self-appointed ambassador of Latin American artists outside of Latin America. And obviously, for those of you who might not have noticed, I am French. I live in London, and there doesn't seem to be much logic to that. I did used to live in Mexico and actually work on the Mexican market when I was in finance in a previous career, and also I did work covering the rest of Latin America and traveled quite extensively throughout Latin America. So when it came to collecting and sort of dedicating more time to the art world, it seemed quite natural and quite exciting actually to focus on Latin America. I think I'm a sort of self-appointed ambassador in a few ways, if you don't mind me saying that. First, because I collect the art mostly from Latin America, now a collection of about 1,000 pieces, most of them from Latin America, 80-85%, I would say. I'm a supporter, as you said, of several Latin American acquisition committees in museums such as the Tate, the Pompidou, the Guggenheim in New York, the Met in New York, and I've been a founding member of these committees, and I've been very involved at the Tate for 20 years. No? So I mean, it's a proper commitment, and also because I've done, and also I support exhibitions and art fairs, but also I've done, as you mentioned, a few publications that also I think help to disseminate, I think, the sort of high quality Latin American contemporary, modern and contemporary art. So when it comes to how I discover a new artist, it's rarely word of mouth. I mean, no, but I do homework, of course, a lot of reading. I have a master's in art history from the Courtauld Institute in London. I also attend lots of art fairs and biennials. I will be happy to share later on the ones that are coming ahead, which I think are very exciting. And I also do a lot of exhibitions. But I think a lot, perhaps when the specificity of my approach is that I'm also very close to a few incubators. Incubators as in institutions that deal with artists when they are at the most vulnerable time, when they leave art school and they do not yet have a professional career. And this is the time when you really need to support them, give them a chance to do residencies, to do exhibitions outside of their countries. So this is the case of Gaswork, Gaswork Triangle Network, as you said, in London, a sort of international residencies. This is the case of also Fluxus Art Projects, a Franco-British initiative that I founded also. And more recently in Merida, Yucatan, Proyecto Y, which is a sort of exhibitions, workshops, and commissions with young graduates from the local school, which is, I hope, growing and growing. So I think that's how I discover artists. I'm sorry, it's a little protracted, but there you are.
No, it's so impressive. And I know you travel widely, and you are like on a discovery all the time. You're very open to all levels. I've seen you at varying art fairs of all levels as well. So yeah, true commitment, as you say.
Yes.
Thank you. Miyoung, with your long-standing role as a collector and a board member at institutions like the Whitney, how has your vision for your collection evolved over the years? Are there specific themes or causes that guide your collecting decisions?
Thank you, Megan. Again, thank you everybody for having me here. Hello, Basma, Catherine. Very honored to be part of this. In the 15 minutes, I've already learned so much. And Megan, your question actually, I know this was just a coincidence, but you're kind of hitting on a very deep fundamental issue I personally have been struggling with, because my journey, and it's been almost 15 plus years of collecting art, is very different from what Basma and Catherine, I think, has done. Mine has been totally haphazard and random. I've just basically been able to take advantage of the fact that I didn't, I was a stay-at-home mother after I stopped working with 2 kids. So I had some time. I live in New York City. I had some friends who were collectors themselves. So I kind of stumbled into collecting, if you will. But I was just very fortunate. My first few guides, if you will, like collecting, were wonderful collectors themselves. Quickly introduced me to artists such as Lyle Ashton Harris and Glenn Ligon. I met Thelma Golden personally. I've been, New York has all these great museums. And so that sort of put me on the path of collecting. And so initially, my collecting was maybe a little bit Afro-American centric, living artist centric, definitely, maybe even more New York artist centric too. And I know this sounds very cliche, but it was basically I was collecting with my eye. I just if I liked it, I collect. I didn't really have a strong kind of theme or anything like that. But now, fast forward, it's been, again, like I said, 10, 15 years. If I look back at what I've collected, has been a lot of female artists that talk about the issues. I'm not necessarily a political activist collector, but the artists here in the States do have a very strong voice, and that has appealed to me. I collect both figurative and abstract. So it's not even, that hasn't even been very consistent. But I think, Basma, you said like you wanted to be an advocate of your culture. So this is the point where I am actually kind of standing on. So here I have this wonderful collection. I do want the collection to be a little bit more meaningful going forward. And I cannot not pay attention to Asian American voices that are working in the art world today. And so I've not made any kind of declaration that anybody would even notice, but I'm just personally trying to decide, should this be the focus? Should I sort of focus on Asian American or broadly Asian American or Asian art, Korean art? I'm actually kind of pondering those questions, talking to other collectors, talking to some museum curators themselves, and what do it mean? Because resources are limited for myself. And so if I'm going to, and the choices are unlimited. So how should I focus? Or should I just continue to collect with my heart? I'm literally kind of pondering those questions. Maybe next year, Megan asked me where I am. Maybe I'll have some more focus or not. But that's kind of where I am. And so again, maybe that was too long a question, but the question really, means something very deep to me at this point.
I love this honesty that you just shared. I think, it's not so clear cut of how a collector begins to collect. Like you said, you kind of rolled into it. And there's also many chapters in a collecting journey. And maybe it's okay to not have a theme, if you still come across and have those relationships with different artists and galleries, and great advice from curators. I think that sounds the best positioning. Thank you. Moving on to how you engage with galleries and artists in particular. Obviously, it's very influential. And it would be great to discuss how each of you approach these connections and what you seek when building long-term relationships in the art world. The art world is obviously vast. There's a lot of people, and I bet you have a lot of people approaching you all the time. Basma, I'd love to kick this off with you firstly. You've been instrumental in bringing public arts initiatives to life, such as the Sculpture Park, but I know you're heavily involved with Alula, which is magnificent, looks magnificent. I can't wait to visit. How do you approach partnerships with galleries and institutions to ensure there's mutual respect and alignment in these collaborations?
To start with, Meg, I have to say is that I have two collections. One which is focused Saudi art and one which is more international. And this is where I like I'm following up is that this is where I made the differences between these two collections. Is one, specifically the goal is to use it as a promotion to the culture and to the artist and to the country. That was a focus. And the other one was a collection that I bought with my heart, Exactly. I just bought what I loved. And I bought art that I can live with, and art that, I didn't buy it because it was a trend or the artist was a la mode or the artist was popular. No, I bought art that I can live with. And I bought art from different parts of the world. From Asia, I love Chinese art. You remember, Megan? from before early days. I did the Chinese, I did African art, I did European, I did British artists, and like I can say some of the name. I have the Anatsui, I have Bridget Riley, I have Andy Warhol, of course, you know, like those are the icons of artists. But then those were something is my passion and my love and my interest. But really where I felt that I made the difference was in the local artists, where they needed the support, where they needed to be promoted, where they needed to be exposed, not because they are only from my country, no, because they were good artists and they needed to be promoted. So that was where I really focused my effort with the artists and with the galleries, because the galleries as well, we don't have a lot of galleries, but the ones we have, we created this bond between us where we became more like a family, you know, and wherever there is an exhibition for an artist through a gallery of a local gallery, everybody went, everybody supported, everybody was there, everybody was promoting, you know, like we took like those artists that we felt that they had the future, and they were they had the kind of the capacity. We sent them to residencies abroad. We really invested in them, not only materialistically, but also effort and personal input, you know, because the art world was too alien for them. So it was really, and you see the result. That was the beauty of it, you know, whatever effort you put in there, you saw the result, you saw the outcome, you know, with that. So that was one front. And the other front, which was more the international, the established galleries, the established artists, it was a relation based on respect. Of course, I had to work on it more. You said earlier that they used to approach you. In my situation, I had to put the effort. I am the person that is coming from the unknown place, you know? So I made more effort to enlighten them about, you know, the place, the country, the interest, the art. So it was a kind of mutual, you know, interest between me and them. Still, you found, you know, it was challenging sometimes. You know, some of these galleries were not easy to handle. You know, they had their own way of looking at clients, their own way of choosing who to give to art, which was as well something that was not easy, you know, because it's not like wherever you find you can buy. No, it was like based on different calculation with them. So it was a challenge, you know, with the more established gallery, is to be chosen to get the piece, you know. So that was, you know, I'm saying the truth, you know, in this case, which was, you know, especially with artists that were in a trend at that moment, you know. So it was hard, but for me I was trying to do my part. I was trying, you know, if I get it or if I don't get it, at the end of the day, it was the interest that always pulled me there. And but then by time, you know, people get to know you, people, you know, of course I would have liked more the galleries to have time to explain to you, rather, especially an art fair, Megan. Everybody is you're just a number, just a number. Are you buying or not, you know? But I wanted somebody to explain to me more, to enlighten me, to take my hand, to, you know, but, you know, it was not that easy. It was, especially in an art fair, you know, was not that easy. So after that, you know, like I'm talking, then I go back, I switch back to Saudi Arabia and the local galleries. It was at a certain moment. Then in 2016, we have the new vision, where it transformed the vision of 2030, where it transferred the country. And we had a huge change in every direction. And culture was one of the main pillars of that change. So the whole thing has changed, and now the support and the galleries and the artists are really living the Renaissance period.
Basma, I love this honesty. It's really, this is what we need to hear. I loved your comment about, sticking together, family, building that community, supporting each other is so important, especially in a developing art scene. And what you say about the galleries, it goes two ways. I could see Miyoung, Catherine kind of nodding as well. It's tough for a collector, especially new, someone that they don't know, to build a dialogue in the first place, especially at an art fair, or, there's always a list priority. And I think that's definitely a takeaway that galleries could take on board a bit about how are they interacting with potential collectors, new buyers. So I do think they often miss many, like yourself, until you pop up in Saudi as the, trailblazer you are. Catherine, on relationships, when you meet a gallerist for the first time, how do you navigate that interaction? Because there must be multiple, to ensure the relationship develops in the way that suits you and your collecting approach. Be interesting to hear your insights on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I think there are many points that would coincide with Basma's approach, of course, but I have to come clean on something, actually. I did try my hand at some point at having a gallery. That was when I transitioned from the financial world to the art world. For about 6 months, I was running a gallery in London specializing in Latin American art. And I have to say, I found the experience very bruising, and I thought it was an impossible business model, and from then I've kept the greatest respect for galleries. So I always try to make sure also to put myself in their shoes and try to understand what it's about. I never bypass galleries. Even if I go to an artist studio, I will ask, what gallery are you going to give this to? No, I think this is really very important. And also I think that I've always given lots of place to galleries. For example, in the books that I published for Thames and Hudson on Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia, there are several pages that are dedicated to the galleries. So I think that's really important. I hope that the relationship is a two-way relationship. I think when I first meet a gallerist, I like to understand what motivates them, because it's such an impossible business model. What are their passions? Why are they in it for? No, I think that's something that's really important. Just like I like galleries to also understand what I'm doing and what my interests are. I think it's quite different. I learn a lot from galleries, and it's quite different between local galleries, the galleries that are based in Latin America, and we have some, perhaps unlike Saudi Arabia, which is perhaps a more young market, there are some very established and excellent galleries in Latin America. So that's a very fruitful rapport, and quite different with international galleries who represent or not Latin American artists. But I think it's a two-way relationship in the sense that I also like when they listen to me, and there have been several instances when galleries have picked up artists after discovering them in my collection, which is hugely satisfying, I have to say. But also, I think perhaps I think that at the end of the day, collectors and galleries, as Basma said it, are part of the same family. We are there to support artists. We are there to make sure artists end up being visible in the top museums of the world, especially when we represent a sort of more peripheral region. I don't know if you can say that Latin America is peripheral, but I think it's still a fight and it's still a struggle to make sure that artists have access to the best institutions internationally, but also in their countries. So I think if you understand this, that artists come from first, I think it makes the relationship with the galleries easier.
Yeah.
In many ways.
That's wonderful. You're so right. It's the galleries and collectors together, and institution. Miyoung, You must have a few experiences of meeting artists and galleries at the very beginning. How did you find it? And how do you balance those connections now?
I think maybe unlike Saudi Arabia, New York has the opposite problem. There's all the galleries are here, but now with the advance of technology, Catherine and Basma, I'm sure your email boxes are getting filled with Miami's previews or what the next fair previews, and sorting that through is almost becoming like a part-time job.
Yes.
But and over the years, I mean, I would say I think it has been actually one of the most fun things about staying in this art world is the relationships that I have built with gallerists and artists. And so, but gallerists specifically, I mean, I would say there's a range. I mean, there are the gallerists you always say hi to at an art fair, and you're very happy to see them. And then I have some gallerists who I actually think are my deepest, closest friends today. So, and some people in between. So, I think, Catherine, you said, you know, like you quickly see which galleries are supporting the artists, and I think over time, my taste toward a particular art or artist and that gallery kind of align. So I just find myself repeating, going back to their door and looking at their art because our artists' visions seem to align. So that kind of sort of narrowed the focus a little bit. So for me, it'd be, you know, artists, galleries engaged in more emerging art. Some galleries were early in on supporting Korean and Korean American artists and whatnot. But also I think on my side, what I've done, and I think, and I'm not trying to like be Pollyanna-ish, but I do think respect to the gallerists have paid off. I mean, and minimum, like now I cannot physically respond to every single email I get. And that makes me feel bad actually, because I know some of those emails are generated by robo emails, but some I can tell have been personal outreaches. And if I try to continue the conversation. If it's in a transaction situation, I try to respect the time. If I think I'm not going to be able to move on a piece, I tell them quickly and say, so they're not wasting time with me. I think the golden rule that I'm sure everyone on this call knows is that, you know, if you bought an artist, I think they're trying to find a home for that particular piece. And so they're not expecting to see that piece in Sotheby's or Christie's auctions the next few years from now. And I think those kind of like unspoken rules, if you will, of courtesy and respect. I think later on, yes, I trust me, I have not been shown a lot of wonderful artists that I would like to get. They always said it's gone somewhere else, Basma. So, you know, like, even if you want, it's not about like even having the resources to buy the painting. You just don't have the accessibility. That's happened to me over and over again. But the opposite has also happened. Like some galleries have called me and said, Miyoung, I know you've been interested in this artist. The show is going to open soon, but here's the, you know, you can kind of look at it before anybody else. And, you know, those are like really like moving moments. So yeah, I do think if the respect goes both ways in the long run, you know, I think it's good for both parties, and of course the artist.
Yeah, it's the true values of any relationship, whether you're dating or a love kind of relationship, it's very similar in terms of picking up those values of respect, making time, digging deep into what they're thinking and vice versa. Fabulous. With your comment about all the email PDFs that you get, I am intrigued by this. And I want to put it out there just as a random question. Do you love PDF previews or do you delete them?
I look at them.
You do? Do you look at all of them?
I look at them.
Okay.
You know, but then I don't, you know, follow up on it, but I do look at them.
Oh, me too. Can I just make one request to anybody who's listening? Look, I'm wearing glasses. I cannot see an image on my iPhone. Okay. So like I know I'm dating myself because everyone wants to have a quick response on your iPhone. And so I think PDFs are coming to your iPhone, but I can't look at it. I mean, it's bad enough that I'm looking at a PDF, but I would like to look at it on a larger screen. So I end up always telling them, please send it to my email box, which, but anyway, I know I'm the minority. I know everybody's looking at PDFs on their iPhones now, but I, for one, cannot look at images on my phone. But anyway, that's just me.
I enjoy receiving PDFs also. I think it really helps you to focus. I get a bit dizzy when I get in an art fair. I don't know where to start. So at least the PDFs give you a sort of a predetermined path. So I love seeing them.
I love this. So PDFs are still relevant. I just want to really hit quickly on the technology side of things. Basma, with your virtual museum, what made you make it virtual? Did you see a need, a purpose, an audience that you wanted to capture? You know, a way of sharing art, experience art. What was your thought process?
Always remember, Meg, is that I did my museum back in 2011. And I used at that time virtual reality, the metaverse, the gaming technology, which was very much ahead of the game, you know. And at that time, it was quite early for everybody else, you know, considering, you know, like the Meta now and Facebook are using it just in the last 2 years or so. But when I did it at that time, I did it out of a need rather than out of being just like a luxury, or it was out of a need because I needed to share, first of all, the idea of the technology is revolutionize the art sharing, you know, and this was very important, is to share the art with locally and internationally. And I wanted to share my collection for knowledge, and because I couldn't do the physical at that time back home, which I wanted to do, but it was not accessible at that time. So I turned to technology, which gave me the platform to be able to share it with many people, because there was absolutely no barriers, you know, like there is no, it removed all the boundaries, you know, there was no boundaries. It made art accessible globally. It engaged the viewer, you know, by the immersive and the interactive experience. People went for it because it goes beyond the traditional display. It was something that they were able to experience themselves by creating their avatar, by literally going through the experience, looking at the art from the comfort of their homes. So it became, you know, especially it reached places where art experience was not that easy or accessible. As well, it was an educational tool, you know, because again, by doing exhibition, you are exposing people to different kind of art, by informing them, you know, and that was already, I'm talking about 2011. So can you imagine now with AI and with all the technology that is available now, where it's going to take all this? It's going to take it really far. And I believe eventually, I don't know, I hope I am mistaken, but it's going to take away from an actual museum experience eventually, which I hope I am wrong, which I hope, because a lot of the new generation, if you look at them, most of them are hooked to their mobiles, you know, are hooked to their tech, you know, tablets and so on. So this is a two-way thing. It could be dangerous as well, you know, as much as that it creates accessibility and it facilitates things, but it's dangerous on the other hand, because it can remove the physical experience, which is no matter what, it's uncomparable, you know. And you know, for me, doing the museum was as well promoting my local art and creating this cross-cultural dialogue, you know, between between the different cultures, and inspire new art lovers and enthusiasts in there.
Yeah, the impact on audiences, yeah, no boundaries, all makes sense. I had a few more questions about digital platforms, but we're going to have to move on and open it up to questions. I know we have a lot, so we need to make sure we have time for the audience to ask you all whatever spicy questions they have, knowing that you're dedicated. We've got your dedicated attention.
Yeah, we've had a lot of really great questions come in. So I will start off so that we can get through quite a few. And the first one is, how do you discover and connect with smaller and emerging galleries looking to showcase new artists? Who would like to kick us off?
Well, if I can answer that, again, I have the geographic advantage of living in New York City. So literally is putting on a pair of good, comfortable shoes and just walking down. I mean, if you know New York City geographically, I mean, first it was all just Chelsea, and then it's the Lower East Side and Chinatown. Now it's Tribeca. Now for a while it was Brooklyn. I mean, so there's these pockets of galleries, and it's just there's a rhythm to the art calendar, if you will, like at the beginning of the fall in September, after everybody comes back from their summer holidays, good shows start to open up, and you just have to, like, make time on a Saturday afternoon, and because galleries are not open on Sundays a lot. Well, there's some are, but anyway, and go and just go in and out, in and out, in and out. And I use an app that has Seesaw. I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. It tells me what galleries are there, and even gives me the GPS. You just have to do the legwork and find them. Word of mouth also does help. I do look at newspapers and articles, and buzz happens, and you just pay attention to who's talking about what, and go see it.
I think in my case, I'm a big consumer of art in art fairs. And I have to say the most art fairs nowadays have curated sections that are often curated by really interesting figures that really give a voice to emerging galleries. And I think that's normally where I find a lot of jewels. And I think that's really the way for me also to open my mind, because otherwise it's always easy to stay in your comfort zone and collect what you know. Yeah. And so these curated sections, I think, for me, are a fantastic tool for discovery.
Right, because I still remain New York, and those art fairs are that bring the international galleries together. That's actually a really good point.
Yes, and there are the big art fairs that have curated sections, and you have smaller art fairs, even in the local countries. Even Mexico, for example, has 3 art fairs at the same time. The main Sonamaco Art Fair, Material Art Fair, and ACME, Salon ACME, which stands for Arte Contemporáneo de México, Mexican contemporary art. So really, I think this is a great provocation, a great stimulation to really find new names and new galleries, and see younger galleries as well.
John, any other questions? I think you're on mute.
You're muted.
I've managed 8 sessions without a technical hitch, so there we go. I was just going to say that leads us perfectly into the next question, which was, what are your favorite international fairs outside of the Basel and Friezes? Any kind of hidden gems that you want to share?
Outside of
the Basels and Frieze fairs.
Oh, Catherine, you go to a lot, don't you?
Yes. Well, if you want to know about Latin American art fairs, this is the place to go. But I think, for example, there's going to be a Sonamaco that opens. I think that was part of something I was going to say on the 5th of February 2025. I think this fair has become a magnet for collectors from all over the world. And thankfully, I think this year, on both sides, before and after, we have lots of visitors coming to Mérida, Yucatan, which is a very sort of a small part of Mexico, but very exciting. But I may be a bit biased. Artbo, Bogota Art Fair, that takes place in September 2025, will be really exciting, especially because I will be curating an exhibition there on the site, but you will know more about this in due course. And then I think outside of Basel and Frieze, that's a difficult one because they do take you to many other places. I like Artissima in Turin because it's a curated fair. It's a sort of jewel fair, which I think you find great things also. And I tend to go to several of the Frieze and Art Basel.
And Basma, where are you going next?
And at Dubai, of course. Sorry, Basma.
Yes, no. Also this year, I happened to go to a very interesting fair in Paris. It was called Off Screen. And it was really a very, very interesting curated by Julian Friedman. And it was a very interesting approach to art where it was like images, but in moving images, but in a different way, which was really fresh, different, and very exciting, very different, you know. And even the position, the location was in a garage, so the whole experience was quite unusual. I am as well. I would like to say about a fair, or it's a biennale that is coming up soon in Saudi Arabia, which is the Islamic Biennale, you know, that I think is something quite interesting because it talks about, it looks at the Islamic culture, but from a different narrative, you know, from an evolving narrative, and it engages with so many emotions rather than rituals, and it is contemporary, and it is as well displaying of artifacts. And there will be like institutions from almost 33 different countries that will be visited, or that will be exhibiting there, including the Vatican. So the dialogue between cross-culture, cross-religion is very interesting. And I definitely encourage you all to come and attend. It's in January.
John, do you have another question? And we can ask Miyoung.
We've got one. Yes, so we got another question, which I think is actually quite an interesting pivot away from art fairs, which is, do any of you browse and buy art on collecting apps or online directly from kind of a marketplace or a gallery website? I know, Miyoung.
I mean, I try not to. Have I in 10 years past bought from a JPEG? Probably yes. It's probably an artist that I knew very well, an art, you know, the practice I was very comfortable with. And even though I didn't have to look at every single last detail of the image, I was comfortable enough to do that. However, that's definitely not the preferred method for me. You know what? I get thrown off by dimensions. And so I know a lot of galleries now put a person standing next to a painting or a chair, which is very helpful for me, because boy, have I like thought I was buying something like relatively small, but turned out to be big. and vice versa, because I just didn't pay attention to the dimensions and didn't have a very good internal sense of scale. So beware when you do that. But yes, I have committed that sin of buying off a JPEG. Yes.
I'll try not to plug our own software that allows you to put a sense of scale next to an artwork. I'll try and keep this quite a fair forum for that, but we do have that option for galleries if they need it. So another question that we have, we've just got a little bit of time, so I think we'll squeeze one in, which is for all of you, do you or have you worked with an advisor, and do you prefer collecting individually or with an advisor?
I never worked with an advisor. I was always collecting by myself, and I always wanted to go through the experience of learning and reading and investigating, rather than taking the advice of someone else, because from my point of view, it will end up being not me, not my collection, you know. But although advisors, I must say, they help a lot, because they can support you in the process and support you not to make a mistake. But sometimes making a mistake that you love is worth it.
I also think that it's more rewarding to collect without an advisor, because I also have studied art, and I have a sort of intellectual curiosity in art as well. But for me, also collecting is being a sort of facilitator. It's about helping artists to carry on working, and helping galleries continue to do their work, about helping institutions to show good works. And so I think this is really very personal and very rewarding, and it's almost a lifestyle. And I wouldn't want to miss out on this through an advisor. But I do work with a curator, a very talented Brazilian curator, who helps me run the collection, because that would not be possible otherwise. But not really working with an advisor where someone else perhaps makes a decision on the art.
I did start out at the beginning with an advisor. She happened to be a fellow mommy friend at the elementary school where my kids attended. And so we were friends. And then it turned out that she was an art advisor. So we started working together. But again, it goes back to those relationships with galleries. And so I ended up establishing the relationships myself. And so we both realized that her value added wasn't about making introductions anymore. It actually was, to be quite honest, managing what I had accumulated over the years. It's been like almost, like I said, almost 15 years. There's a lot of things I bought. And so maybe I didn't mean to talk about database management, but that actually has been a very critical component of collecting, is just knowing even if I paid an invoice, or if a piece that's on loan has it come back or not. I mean, all those little minute details, first I thought I could handle on my own, is become a little bit unwieldy. And so that has her role has kind of morphed into more collection management, if you will. So that is definitely some help I continue to need and will need more of.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, I think we are just about out of time, so we'll have to wrap it up there. If I could get maybe one thing from each of you, what you're excited about in 2025, you know, maybe where you'll be traveling, what are you looking forward to collecting maybe? Catherine, should we start with you?
Yes, I'm closely involved with 2 biennales that are taking place in 2025. So the Liverpool Biennial, Bedrock, curated by Megan Leckie, that will open on the 7th of June 25 in Liverpool. And if you haven't been to Liverpool, it's a very exciting city in Britain. And of course, the Sao Paulo Biennial that will open on the 6th of September 2025, curated by Bonaventure, who many of you you may know. And I think this is going to be a very humanist biennial, one that I'm really excited about. And I'm on the International Advisory Board of the Sao Paulo Biennial. I've been there now for 8 years, and I really enjoy it. So don't miss this really important rendezvous of the Latin American art and of art generally.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think I have to say is that I'm excited about the Islamic Biennale in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, that will take place on the 27th of January and 25th actually of January 25. I believe that this Biennale is not to be missed. It's quite, I am involved with it as well, and it is quite unique in the world. You know, there is nothing like it at all. And it gives a different perspective and a different view about the Islamic concept and culture, which is, again, is very much, there's a lot of misconception about it. And it's about the beauty of the religion rather than the negative side about it. And I really strongly advise everyone. Saudi is becoming a very interesting place to visit, and I encourage you all to come. It will be our pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
January in Saudi Arabia will be much better than January in New York City. So yeah,
or in London for that matter.
And then Catherine, the Sao Paulo Biennial always competes with Seoul Freeze, which is one of my personal.
I know.
So like you know, so we'll have that. We didn't compete this past year, but we're going to compete next year at the opening at least.
Yes.
But I do need to make one plug for the Whitney Museum. Which Christine Sun Kim she's a deaf artist who works in Berlin, and we're having a sort of a retrospective. She's a young artist. She'll continue to make work. So mid-career survey is probably better, but she is a fascinating artist. Again, as a deaf artist, her work is smart, and it just teaches me what it means to be an artist and how to live in the world as a deaf person. So it's opening in February at the Whitney Museum. So, and of course we have the Alvin Ailey show, which is again, a stunner of a show. If you can come to New York and see that before it closes too.
Wonderful. And Megan, what are you looking forward to?
Oh, I'm even prepared. I'm always, I have to say the Mexico trip was life-changing for me. So that's on the radar. I can't wait to go back to Hong Kong. I haven't been there for a few years now. So looking forward to Art Basel Hong Kong in March to reconnect with everyone.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Megan, our moderator today, and our panelists, Catherine, Miyoung, and Basma. A very insightful look into collecting. It's been an amazing second day of Connect. We've had over 1,300 attendees across our sessions. So please do join us tomorrow for our final day, which is all focused on interpreting new trends. We'll be exploring the art market's evolving regulatory landscape. We'll be looking at the future of sustainability in the art world and what economic challenges we all might be facing in 2025 and beyond. There'll also be a 50-minute skill session on integrated marketing tools. So you can join that and get a little bit more understanding about how you can use email marketing. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists in this session and to all the panelists today and everybody behind the scenes at Artlogic that have been able to make this happen. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
So much.
Thank you so much.